So I think you all have introduction. We met on the other day, right? So older ones doesn't require any introduction. So today we'll be discussing the weekly current affairs. Okay. So from almost 25th of July to 1st of August, right? This is a timeline where I'm going to discuss certain issues. So first, if you have seen, these are the 5 issues from mains perspective. Okay. So I'll be discussing both from mains as well as prelims perspective. So due to scarcity of time, because we have limited time of 2 hours, I'm trying to focus on the most important things. Okay. So if you see here, the first issue, yesterday there is a judgment given by Supreme Court of India on essay subcategorization, right? So we look into all the aspects. So this forms part of GS paper 2 polity and Indian Constitution, right? So anti-conversion law, GS paper 2 polity again, right to be forgotten. So GS paper 2 polity, quad, this is GS 2 IR, international relations, natural forming, GS paper 3 environment. Then this is important from prelims perspective, environment related. Then you have white category sectors. This is also related to environment. These are all important from prelims perspective. Okay. So this is also again related to environment. This is related to internal security in GS paper 3. Lithium, GS paper 3, economy, SNT also both. Dark oxygen, GS 3, environment again. Notified disaster, GS 3, disaster management. Coal gasification, GS 3, environment. These are 2 places in news. Okay, so as part of every week discussion, I'll be discussing what are the prominent issues which are in news, places or locations, you can say. This is from world mapping perspective. Okay? So from the next class, B10 students, as you are very new, try to bring atlas for the next class. Okay, so that you can have the location also marked, right? So the very first issue we're discussing is subcategorization. So how many of you are aware of the concept of subcategorization? At least in the general, right? Right, okay. So I'll start right from the very basic thing. So subcategorization means this is in the context of essays and essays, right? So if you have seen, before that, I just want to mention about this theory of distributive justice, which is given by a scholar, John Rawls. Okay, so this is not for your examination, but to give an insight about what is the concept of reservation, I have given this. Okay, so what is this system of distributive justice means? He says only when there is social justice, only after having social justice you can ensure merit. Otherwise you cannot give merit based system. Okay, that means you have to treat everyone equal, you need to ensure equality, then only you can give any scope for merit. That is what his concept of theory of distributive justice, right? And the concept of reservations is there right from the independent time. Before independence also this concept has been prominent, especially in 1932. When you study history, you'll be coming across this. Then we have Pune Pact. Okay, Pact is nothing but an agreement. So Pune is the location. Pune, modern day Pune, you can call. So in Pune, Ravada jail, right? So there is an agreement between Mahatma Gandhi and B.R. Ambedkar. Okay, so why? Because at that point of time, British wants to divide and rule us, right? So as they want to divide not only between religions like Hindu and Muslim, they also wanted to divide Hindu section also into further upper caste and downward caste or backward caste and all. In that way, they wanted to divide the entire society so that their rule can be easy, right? So for that reason, they proposed that the downward caste or the depressed caste will get more share. Okay, so we are giving separate electorate. That is different from the present system of reservation. Separate electorate means only SC persons can vote for SC, not all. The present day reservation, they're reserving certain seats, that's it. But you're not only allowing SC persons to vote for SC. Anyone can vote, right? So that is how the difference is, right? If you make that system, what will happen? It will further fragment the society forever, right? Yes or no? There will be divisible pool. So SCs will be there for SCs, OCs for OCs. Like this, there won't be unity or social harmony will not be there. For that reason, this was opposed by Mahatma Gandhi. So he didn't accept this proposal. Okay, at the time, due to civil disobedience movement, he was part of that movement and he was arrested by British. He was put in jail. So in jail only he started this operation. You can say he was not satisfied with this Pune Pact. Okay, so he was Ramya. Do you have place? There is one seat here. Come fast. Okay. So actually this Ramsay MacDonald at that point of time was the British Prime Minister. He announced this communal award. This is what the proposal of separate electorates for the depressed classes. Communal award. Okay. So that means separate electorates will be there for the scheduled caste. Initially he proposes. So Mahatma Gandhi was not happy with this. But Ambedkar is fighting for the depressed classes and all right from the beginning, right? Because he was also subjected to untouchability and different things. So he was always in favor of some special privileges should be given to the depressed classes and all. So some other nationalists like Madan Mohan Malaviya and other Congress leaders at that time convinced Ambedkar, okay, so you please listen this time to Gandhi's stand and all. So let's not divide the further Indian society. We need to fight a common enemy, British. So that has to be the agenda now. So you please listen, and there has been some agreement between Mahatma Gandhi and Ambedkar in opposing this communal award. That has actually, at the time, Ambedkar has agreed to the proposal of Gandhi that we are not giving the separate electorates, but if we get independence, I am promising that I will give the concept of reservation. That means in the legislature, at that time also we used to have like parliament body. Okay, so in that body, we'll be giving you certain seats reserved for the depressed classes. You don't please accept to this communal award. In that way, they had an agreement, which we call it as Pune Pact. This is the very first time the concept of reservations originated in before independence also, right? And after independence, who is the framer of Indian Constitution? Again, Ambedkar, right? So B.R. Ambedkar. So as he already has seen that historical injustice done and all, so he gave the concept right from the beginning of the constitution itself, right? There are certain provisions. So why reservation? Reservation is like an affirmative policy, because all the time state should ensure there should be equality in the society. Equality in the sense everyone has to be given equal opportunity to excel in their individual lives, right? So when there is no equality, state cannot do anything in a proper justice way, right? For that reason, the concept of reservation started right immediately after independence. Okay, after understanding this, if you have an idea of the term preamble to the Indian Constitution, that is nothing but a preface. When you open a book, you will have a preface, right? So introduction to the book. Same way, Indian Constitution also has a preface called preamble. In that preamble, there is a mention of justice. So what is the justice that Indian Constitution wants to give in terms of social justice, economic justice, political justice? These are the three types of justice Indian Constitution wants to give to the Indian citizens. Okay, so in that context, if you see the reservation system also, reservation as a system also is trying to promote these three different types of justice: social, economical, and political. Okay, so how social justice is ensured? Can you name anything which is exercised by the depressed classes to ensure social justice? See here, in social justice, we have Article 15 and 16. Do you know the concept of articles in Indian Constitution? We have certain articles, right? So 15 and 16 are your fundamental rights. What is 15 talking about? You should not be discriminated, right? So you should not be subjected, even if you're from the depressed classes, there should not be any discrimination towards you. Indian Constitution is explicitly prohibiting any form of discrimination under Article 15. Then how it is different from 16? Article 16 says discrimination is not allowed, but not only in public places and all. That is in 15. But it is saying in terms of educational institutions, especially public educational institutions, and also in employment opportunities in public only, no private concept here. Okay, that means in government educational institutions as well as government employments, there will not be any discrimination. But at the same time, they also said in case there should not be any discrimination, right? But at the same time, if you're not having equality, then for example, if OCs are like this and other BCs, SCs and other people are like this, then what you have to do? You have to make sure that they also come to here, right? That means you are saying there should not be discrimination. But at the same time, when there is no equality in the society, the state also has a responsibility to make them up, right, in the society and all. So for that reason, some exceptions are given in the form of reservations, right? So Article 15 and 16 are saying there should not be discrimination. But at the same time, as there is so much of historical injustice there in the Indian society, we should correct that also. Then only we can eliminate this concept of discrimination and so and so. Okay. So for that, it is an exception. Article 15 prohibits any discrimination on the grounds of gender, caste, place of birth. Okay. So these things. In Article 16 talks about any discrimination will not be allowed in government educational institutions and employment opportunities, right? That is one clear. Then economic opportunities. In terms of economic opportunities means they should also be given a free hand to do whatever they want. Okay. So for example, if you see certain times, okay, we'll be hearing about manual scavenging and all, right? So certain castes were associated with this. That means this particular profession, this person only have to do these type of things should not be there. Okay. You should not impose any restrictions. So in that way, you need to ensure economic justice. Whatever you want to do, that you can do. If you see the concept of caste system, where we have that Chaturvarna system, at that time, the caste system is specifying the division of labor. That means Brahmins have to do this, Kshatriyas have to do this and all. But is that existing today? No, because Indian constitution needs to ensure equality. You should be given all the full ability which an individual required to excel in his particular domain. So in that context, economic justice is also given by giving you full liberty to do whatever you want until unless you're doing certain things which is against the constitution, right? Then what is political justice? Not only voting rights, universal adult franchise you have anyhow, but there is also a concept of reservations for SC and STs in Parliament. Article 330 talks about it. So you know there will be certain percentage of reservation for SCs and STs in Lok Sabha 330. How much percentage? That will be determined based on their population. In that particular constituency, how much is the population of SC, ST? Based on that, that percentage of reservation will be determined. Then 332 talks about same here but in assemblies. State assemblies 32, 330 is Lok Sabha. Do remember in Rajya Sabha and councils, which are the upper bodies in legislature, they do not have any concept of reservation. It is only there in the lower bodies, Lok Sabha or assemblies, right? Then there is also a concept of 334. 334 is nothing but for how much period this concept of reservation extends, right? So when in the beginning constitution, they only have given for 10 years. But after 10 years, you know, due to different reasons, political reasons, vote bank politics and all, every 10 years are extending. And you don't know how many years it will be there, okay? So until unless we have that historical injustice corrected also, till then we have this concept, okay? So this is one. And in social angle, we also have Article 338, 338A and 338B. So what are these? National Commission for SC, National Commission for ST, National Commission for BC. This is for SC, this is for ST, this is for BC. Okay. So these are certain commissions, means constitutional bodies. All three are constitutional bodies. That means they find their mention in the Constitution of India. They are there to protect the rights of respective castes, SCs, STs and BCs. Okay. So in this way, we are trying to ensure social, economic and political justice, right? So in spite of all these measures also, can we say every SC and ST are getting the due benefit, right? Within SCs also, there are certain castes which are getting all the benefits and certain castes are not even in the race of getting the benefit also. So to correct this only, yesterday there is a landmark judgment given by Supreme Court reversing its earlier judgment. Here you have to keep another thing in mind. Any Supreme Court judgment can be overturned by a same bench if it is there. For example, the 2004 judgment initially was given by a 5-judge bench, means 5 judges were part of that bench and they have given a verdict that there should not be any categorization in SCs. If that has to be reversed, then there should be at least greater than that bench. That means now yesterday's judgment is involving 7-judge bench. Why all the time odd numbers only will be there? Because it is easy to arrive at a decision, right? If you have even 4-4, when the decision get again tied up, then what you have to do? Again, you have to refer it to further bench and all. For that reason, most of the cases will be taken by odd benches only. Okay. So you cannot say like there will not be any even bench. Sometimes 2-judge bench also will be there. But when there is a constitutional interpretation, that means if you want to check anything with respect to the constitution, then minimum of 5 judges have to be there. Constitutional bench means minimum 5. It can be 5, it can be 7, it can be 9, it can be 11, or it can be 13, or it can be anything. But so far, highest number of bench was 13 judge bench in Keshwan and the Bharti case. That's a very landmark case which we will study in polity. I'm not again going there because we have limited time, right? So then this 7-judge bench has given a verdict in 6:1. That means 6 has favored in subcategorization and 1 has said in reverse. Okay. So who is this person who said reverse judgment is Justice Bela Trivedi. Okay. So why did he reverse this, or why didn't he take a dissenting opinion? Is he said, first thing, subcategorization should be done or not is not the ambit of judiciary. It has to be taken care by either executive or parliament. It's not our job, right? So if we are entering into job of other domain, Constitution has given the concept of separation of powers. Each organ is given limited power. They have to do their job within their domain only. If I cross into your domain, that will be like an overreach. So he said it is not our job, but other 6 members said it is our job. So they said reverse in 2004 judgment, because it is a 5-judge bench. Now it is the 7-judge bench which has reversed it. Okay. So how this has changed, I'll explain. But first, this person also interestingly said, for example, okay, if you are voting in favor of subcategorization, then it may be used by political parties also, right? So that means for a state, in a state, for example, in SCs also, if one particular caste is having high proportion in population, okay, then what they'll do? They'll try to give all the benefits and jobs for those only to secure their votes, right? That means the actual intent of bringing the subcategorization will be defeated. Yes or no? That means this can be politically misused also. When they politically misuse, the very objective of the law is also getting violated. Yes or no? That means it may become a colorable legislation. This is a very important doctrine which you will be studying in polity. Colorable legislation means if there is existing one particular law, if you bring any other law which is defeating its purpose, this is called colorable legislation. So in case if it is misused, the very objective is getting defeated. Why you have brought that law? To do some justice, but that justice is not being done. So that may become a colorable legislation. So for that reason, I'm not supporting this. Okay. But still, there is a clear-cut majority here. So that is why yesterday judgment has prevailed. Now, let us understand the background. So first, you need to understand what is subcategorization, right? So this subcategorization is already there in other backward class. So if you know, in BCs, we have BC, AD, ABCD and all. The same way we are going to create now for SC and STs. This is only there for OBC still now, right? And another thing you have to keep in mind, here with respect to Article 341, 341A, 342A. Okay. So what are these articles means here? Who have to be SC? Who have to be ST? Who will determine this? It is President of India. President of India issues an order of notification saying that these will be SCs and STs. So any addition into that list or deletion has to be done by Parliament only. States doesn't have any role here, right? That means if one particular caste is declared SC, he'll be declared SC all throughout the country because states doesn't have any role here. But it is not the case in OBCs. Whereas this Article 342A talks about OBCs. So here addition and deletion will be done again by president, or it can be done by governor also. That means here to make anyone as a OBC, both center and states have power. But here according to 341 and 341A, president alone have power. Only central government, that means through parliament only, they can add or delete. States doesn't have any role. This is already existing, right? So why I'm explaining this is now we'll be understanding this article also when I tell you. So first thing, for example, if you consider in SCs only we have 100 persons or 100, okay, SCs we have. So in this also if you categorize, okay, so for example, if you don't categorize, for example, out of SCs, if there are 5 castes and out of 5, if there is only one caste which is very forward, already they have developed economically, socially and all. So if the person becomes a doctor from SC category, his child also will become a doctor. Yes or no? Because already he had that advantage. Economic support is there, social support will be there, everything and all. So that means other persons may not get that benefit, right? Other castes in SCs whose father is actually a farmer or other person and all, right? That means here if you don't divide that this percentage of reservation comes to you, this will be given to you and all, then this type of injustice may be prevalent. For that reason, we are going to subcategorize. That means For example, if you are giving 15% reservation for entire SCs, okay, let us consider 15% is a reservation which is existing now. 15% for entire SCs will be there. Out of 15% also, you will be dividing this 15 here. Like for example, if you consider this 8, okay, this community according to the population, this will be 8%. According to population, 3%. This will be 4%. That means this community person will get only 8% within the SC reservation because that is according to their population. Otherwise, what happens? If you don't do this, can we say this person will get 8% or more than 8? You cannot define, right? So that is the reason why there is a demand for subcategorization, because within SCs or within STs also across the country, there are certain castes which are forward economically and socially, and they are grabbing all the benefits. For that reason, from many years onwards, there is a demand that we need subcategorization so that the downward castes within SCs and STs also will get their due benefits. That's the main thing. Okay. So for this, now it is clear, right? So how this all started now, we'll understand. So first thing, it started in 1975. Okay. So in the state of Punjab, what happened is they issued a notification stating that they're going to give 25% reservation for SCs. Okay. So how much they wanted to give is state specific again. Okay. Depending on the population, right? So they said 25%. In this 25%, first half of the reservation will go to Valmiki community tribes, or sorry, SCs will be there. The same time, there is also Mazhebi Sikh community. So for them, out of entire reservation, half will go. Only if they are satisfied or filled totally, then only rest of the communities. That is how they mentioned a notification in 1975. Then it went well, and almost for 30 years, there is nothing that happened. Okay. So that means almost from 1975 means this in 2004. Okay. Everything is smooth in the state of Punjab. Okay. But what happened in the 2004, in the state of Andhra Pradesh also, they have brought a similar type of legislation with the name AP Scheduled Caste Rationalization of Reservation Act. You need not remember these names and all. This was brought in the year 2000, okay, by the State Assembly of Andhra Pradesh. So they wanted to create such same system in Andhra Pradesh. So when they passed this act, someone has challenged in the High Court, okay. So they said, no, you cannot subcategorize. Okay, so they said no subcategorization. A very famous case is E.V. Chinnaya versus State of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so this is the case of 2004. So here you're subcategorizing or no? The same concept. That means these persons have to get due share. Only if they get due share, then only other persons will get the rest of the reservation. That means you are also subcategorizing here. So in this particular case, although this is not having any relevance here, same type of law was brought in AP, and they said clearly you cannot subcategorize, because what is the rationale? They said all SCs, irrespective of the differences in SCs, have faced the same historical injustice or untouchability, discrimination and all. You cannot make SCs different from each other. SCs constitute same homogeneous group. Homogeneous means they have similar things and all. You cannot differentiate that this is forward and this is backward. And this is a clear violation of Article 14, which is right to equality. So on that ground, you know, right to equality is also there, right? So certain provisions of constitution come in contrast with each other, right? So that will be the problem when we implement many things involved. So here also what happened? They said you cannot subcategorize. Two reasons: SCs are homogeneous, and it is a violation of Article 14. Then what happened? If this is given by AP High Court, okay, or Supreme Court, let us consider, it was challenged again and all. So then what happened? In 2006, inspiring from this judgment, Punjab High Court has struck down 1975 notification. That means till this case happened, nothing went wrong. But when once it was given in against of this particular concept, then Punjab High Court, okay, which is a common High Court for Haryana also, you know, there is a common capital, common High Court. So they have struck down in 2006. So what happened immediately when it was struck down? Political parties will lose the vote banks in case if it is, again, they have to present at least that they are people centric and all. So for that reason, within 4 months, they again brought a law, similar type of law like 1975, to challenge this verdict. Okay. So again, after that, it was challenged, and you know, again in 2010, same Punjab and High Court, Haryana High Court has struck down again. Then what happened? Now Punjab High Court has approached Supreme Court of India. Okay, you please allow us to subcategorize. That is the actual origin of this particular case. Okay, so then what happened? Then a 5-judge bench was referred in the year of 2014. Okay, so they asked that, okay, this bench initially examined and they said, yes, there is a need to relook. Okay, so whether there should be a subcategorization or not, let us reconsider. But what is the problem? Already 5-judge bench has given in against of subcategorization. So if you have to revisit or if you have to give another verdict, then how many judge bench has to look into is more than that. That means 7-judge bench, right? In that way, this matter now came to the Supreme Court of India. It has taken these many years, again, lot of pendency will be there and all. In that way, as 5-judge bench in that particular case, and also Chinnaya versus State of Andhra Pradesh, also 5-judge bench is there, right? So as 2-judge benches are giving 2 conflicting opinions, they wanted to refer this to 7-judge bench, and yesterday it was given clearly in favor of subcategorization. So what Supreme Court yesterday have opined? They said SCs cannot be treated as homogeneous entity. Why? Because all people are not alike. There are some SCs who are forward and there are some SCs who are backward. So you cannot treat everyone equally. So that is not a correct notion. And if you see the historical data also, that is reflecting that certain castes are very backward. So if you don't allow the states to subcategorize, because as I told you here, who is having the power to categorize or to place anyone? President. So that is what even in E.V. Chinnaya case also, the High Court or Supreme Court said the same thing. Okay, because you don't have any power, states. Okay, only Parliament or President can do that. But now Supreme Court said states, as they have to again offer the justice and all to the people and all, they have to be given a chance to correct the historical injustice. So now subcategorization is allowed. This is the entire judgment. Is that clear? Right? So now what is the argument in favor? You can see, if we do subcategorization, what type of benefits we get? Whatever the inequalities are there within SCs and STs, that can be corrected. Then okay, that's fine then. Okay, good. There will be better growth and prosperity and all. So other things. What are the arguments against? In such case, why don't they introduce creamy layer? Why to go over? See, that is already given in 2018 by Jarnail Singh case also. Okay, so they said subcategorization can be done, and even SCs can also have this concept of creamy layer. Okay, in that particular case only they gave permission for introducing reservations and promotion for SCs. That's the case, Jarnail Singh case, where they allowed this. But again, that issue has to be again, because so many people have challenged. In case if you introduce a concept of creamy layer and all, so many gets excluded and all. So for that reason, it was still pending in the Supreme Court. So it has to take a final call, because already BCs have creamy layer concept, but SCs didn't have so far. So that has to be interpreted by a larger bench, and then that final verdict will be given. So this was given already in this case. And in this case, they also said this application or subcategorization is nothing but an application of creamy layer itself. Okay. That is what. So the people who are not supporting this idea are saying it will again disturb the social harmony, right? So within the caste also there will be divisions and all. So some people are suggesting this should not be the case. So some others are suggesting, like, first you need to provide government benefits and welfare measures, then think of giving this reservations and all. First you need to provide them certain things and all. And some others are saying, even if you give, for example, if you are giving 5% to one particular caste, if there are no persons who are actually representing from that community, that 5% will be vacant only, or it will be carried forward every time. So you may not have adequate representation also from the backward caste. So this is arguments in favor and against, right? So here, for doing social justice, we need to ensure there is a reservation, and that reservation should be in a way it is inclusive all the time. Okay, so being aspiring bureaucrats and all, you always have to suggest a forward, like you can say, optimistic conclusion, right? So it should be futuristic, it should be inclusive. You cannot take one stand. Do keep that in mind. Okay, so why? Because any time you cannot suggest either in this side or in this side, you always have to suggest the middle path. Okay, so let us see this particular thing.
Now, what is your view on subcategorization?
So if that can do the benefit, I'm always anything in favor only. So but again, we don't know, actually. That's what I'm saying. Political parties may manipulate the data also, right? So when they collect the data, they can use for their vote bank politics and all. It is not the problem with the law or anything, but it's always the problem with the implementers who are actually implementing this. Okay, so they should use this to the maximum benefit. That's the only thing. Okay, so anyone should not say again their personal opinions or anything on the public platforms, because we are the aspiring bureaucrats and all. We should not take any stand. We always have to stay anything which is larger in the benefit, that has to be upheld, right? Then, so if you see here, the background I told you, in 2004 EV Chinnaya case, Supreme Court held that it is violation of right to equality. Then many states like Punjab, Bihar, Tamil Nadu, they also brought some laws to subcategorize, because again that is a political thing and all. They wanted to do this, and I told you the roots of the cases in Punjab notification. What is the background? What happened? I told you, right? Then these are the commissions also constituted by central government, because any government wants to secure maximum number of votes from the scheduled castes and tribes. So for that reason, they have constituted. Even if you have remembered in 24 elections time when Modi has visited as part of his election rally, also he said we are open to subcategorization. Then he constituted a committee also of different health secretaries, finance and secretary and all, so to look into. But actually, the main domain of subcategorization is with the parliament. So central government can only initiate, but parliament has to accept it. Okay, so now it has got a green signal, you can say. So these are the arguments in favor. Means graded inequalities are there. That means within the SCs and STs also there is so much inequality. In some communities have lesser access to basic facilities. So you need to provide categorization. And there is also crowding of the backward ones. That means they're leaving out these ones and they're not even getting any due benefits. In this way, you can suggest there should be some categorization. But at the same time, there are some arguments against also. If you just give subcategorization, that may not solve the actual problem. Okay, so what you need to ensure certain existing schemes and government benefits first, then you have to ensure this type of reservations will be given. Most backward may not have their enough candidates to nominate also, so that is also another problem. So then answer this question. I don't expect a question answer from the freshers, but B6, B7 and other senior veteran students are there, so they have to take the lead. You're having polity classes. Is the question not visible? Okay. So I read Article 15, Clause 2 prohibits discrimination in access to what? Shops, public restaurants, hotels, places of public entertainment. You can also generally answer, right? All, anywhere you cannot allow discrimination, right? In shops or anywhere. So any public space. See, this will not apply to private spaces. So you cannot enter into another home and you cannot say anything. That's their domain. Okay. Only in public places there will not be any discrimination. You cannot discriminate anyone, right? Only these have to enter. These cannot enter in all. So answer is all 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then next topic of discussion is anti-conversion laws. Okay. So anti-conversion means religious conversion. So recently Uttar Pradesh Assembly has passed another bill. Okay. So with respect to preventing unlawful conversions, right? So why this trend is increasing, there are again some religious conversions happening and all. We have the concept of love jihad and all. So there are different views and opinions. I'm not going to any of that particularly because it creates a lot of controversy all the time, right? So we are not going to those aspects. But first thing, this particular bill, okay, is not new in India, because we have different states already passed. Like for example, Karnataka has passed, Maharashtra has passed and all. So what is the main concept of anti-conversion, right? So first thing you need to ensure there is right to freedom of religion, right? So as part of your freedom of religion, you can have your own way of your devotion to the God, right? So you can express that through some rituals, practices and everything. At the same time, you cannot even express also. You cannot follow any religion also. That is also fundamental right. You need not follow any religion all the time. You can be aesthetic also, right? So first thing here you have to keep in mind is with respect to religion, there cannot be any forced religion, okay, forced conversion of religion. Why? Because any person, if he voluntarily converts himself into another religion, that's acceptable, right? But in the lure of money or any other thing, okay, for example, if you convert into this only, I'll give you this job, or I'll ensure this will happen to you and all, or any monetary benefit, or in case if you convert yourself only, I'll marry you, right? these type of things are not acceptable by Indian constitution. That is a forced conversion. Although you have freedom of religion under article 25 to 28 of Indian constitution, which is a fundamental right, there is a strict ban on religious conversions, which are forced conversions, right? So in this context, why they're bringing this, there are so many instances of persons, like for example, especially, this is not my personal opinion, but in Islamic law, when a male have to marry a female, that's fine. But a female, if they have to marry a non-Islamic person, then she has to convert into another religion, right? Or if a male is an Islamic person and if the female is not Islamic, okay, then she has to convert herself into Islam, then only she can marry that person of Islam, right? So that means this is also creating a forced conversion. It's not voluntary. Because of marrying that person, she is getting converted, right? So these are not allowed. That is why when there is increased instances of these things, some states are bringing laws to prohibit such religious conversions, right? This is a thing you have to understand. So what type of things are allowed? Only voluntary, without any inclination. If you're coming voluntarily, then that is fine. Otherwise, it's not allowed. What type of things are not allowed? In the name of misrepresentation, that means if you do this only, okay, I have this authority or I have this power, if you do this, I'll allow you. That is what misrepresentation. Okay, actually I don't have that power, but I'll say that I have power. If you do this only, I'll give you this and all. So force, by force, undue influence you cannot do. Coercion is also one type of force only, okay, but in another way. Allurement means if you do this, I'll give this and all. Okay, in all these ways you cannot force or you cannot allow anyone to convert. Okay, so if you do these things, that will be a violation of their fundamental freedom of religion. So that is what the main aspect of this law also. But here you need not go into the specific features of this law, because this is a state law, not a parliament law, right? So you need to understand what is the objective of this law, and actually do we need this type of laws or not? What are the arguments in favor and against? Okay, these type of things are quite common in mains. So first thing, in different cases, okay, so you need not remember again the cases, okay, for your information I'm just disclosing. So Supreme Court in Pushpa Bal case, okay, so in this particular case they clearly said any conversion has to be voluntary. Okay, any forced conversion is a violation of their fundamental right. Okay, so when there is a violation of fundamental right, what happens? Supreme Court can do some course corrective measures through Article 32, that is writ, right? WRIT, writ is also a fundamental right. When your fundamental right is violated, again Supreme Court issues another fundamental right in the name of writs to correct that particular thing. Okay, so that means in this particular case, they said it has to be purely voluntary. You cannot force anyone. You cannot undue influence anyone. In this way, they have clearly said. Okay. So first thing, what happens if you religiously convert yourself? That means it's a violation of Article 25, which talks about your freedom of religion. Clear? Then it also violates your Article 19(1)(a), which talks about freedom of speech and expression. The way you express yourself to God is also your freedom, right? So if you're getting forced converted, then that is also violation. Then Article 21, right to dignified life is there, okay? With full liberty also you can exercise that right, okay? And there is also right to privacy. You have complete privacy with respect to your religious affairs. No one can intrude into your religious domain. No one can make you to follow them one particular thing. Okay, so in this way, then then is there any other article which is getting violated? Under Article 15, is religion a ground for discrimination? Yes or no? Yes. Basic students, you have to take the lead. Basics B7. Polity sir chepta malli. If you're not answering, I list out your names, especially PSR optional students are also there. Yes, there's Article 15 on the grounds of religion, right? So here also, if you're making one religion to dominate, or if you're trying to again not allow any person from that particular religion to convert into another religion and all, that's also a clear violation of Article 15 also. Okay, in this way, these fundamental rights are getting violated if one resorts to forcible conversions, right? Then why there is a need for anti-conversion laws? Why we need anti-conversion laws? That is what, right? So in the name of marriage, right? If you have seen recently, IPC was replaced with Bharati Nyaya Sanhita. In that also they have said, in case if you are making any false promise of marriage, or if you are resorting to any means of deceit and all, then that will be a penal offense. That means in the name of marriage, if you are asking to convert and later on if you just mislead that person and all, then that is a crime under new law of BNS. Okay, in that way some stringent provisions are still there, but again, when there are law and other things, there will be loopholes also, again, that will be misused and all. The same thing is happening because, in the name of religion, getting influenced by marriage and other things also, and sometimes to get due benefits, whatever they want also, many people are getting converted. So here you need to have a look over different cases. So especially in Hadia versus Ashokan case, this is a very important case because for the very first time, Supreme Court said right to marry one's choice is part of Article 21, right to life and their liberty. So in the name of marriage, you cannot force anyone. Right to marry one's choice is their life, right to life. Okay. So they have full liberty to do that particular thing. Okay. So you cannot force anyone. The same thing was reiterated by Lata Singh versus State of UP case also. Here what happened is, see this, initially this girl name is Akila. You might have heard about this case. In 2017 or 18, a very important case in Kerala. So her name is Akila, but she engaged into one relationship where that person is an Islamic person. So she has converted herself into Islam to get married. Okay. So then this person Ashokan was the father of this person girl only. So he said that boy or the person who actually wants to marry, so he convinced or he forcibly converted my child into religion and all. So in that way, that case went to Supreme Court at that instance for the first time, because both of them being majors, Supreme Court said right to marry one's choice is her right to life. So you don't have any role to play there. So they have given. So after converted into Islam and all, she has changed her name as Hadia. Okay, that is the reason. So Lata Singh versus State of UP. This is another case. In these two cases also they said in the name of religion. Okay, so you cannot forcibly convert anyone, and marrying one's choice is right to life and personal liberty. Then there is also another case called Sarala Mudgal versus Union of India case. Okay, so what happened in this case? Interestingly, this Sarala Mudgal's husband. Okay, so she's a Hindu, and her husband to get married for the second time. Under Hindu Marriage Act, after having a living spouse, you cannot marry another one, right? If you have a living spouse, if you marry another one, that amounts to bigamy, which is a ground for divorce, right? So then, to escape that provision, what he done is he have converted himself into Islam. And in Islam, one can marry and have 4 wives at a time, right? So this was challenged by this wife. Okay, so just to bypass the Hindu law, because that can be a ground of divorce, so he has converted himself into Islam, and he had now more than one wife. So in this case, Supreme Court also clearly said one cannot bypass law. For that, they cannot convert into another religion just to have 4 wives. Okay, so for that reason, this was also not allowed in Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India case. Okay, so like this, we have number of cases, especially if you see in terms of religious conversions, mainly on the pretext of marriage. Okay, and in terms of money, because some communities, most of the times tribal communities get converted. Okay, because they don't have that economic benefits and all, so they'll say if you do this only, or if you convert only, I'll do the help and all. In that way, they're getting forced. Okay, so in this context, you should know, not required to remember everything, but what is the key provision of this law is, in case if there is a conversion by solemnization of marriage, that means if you say, if you want to marry me, then you have to convert, then that is a clearly illegal conversion under the law. Okay, in the name of marriage, you cannot ask anyone to convert. That is UP law. Okay, you need not remember. Then in case, who can file the FIR here? First information report. It can be the aggrieved person or relatives. Okay. So then what is the punishment? 1 to 5 years or 15,000 minimum fine in general cases. But if the party or the victim is woman or minor or a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe person, the punishment of generally 1 to 5 can be increased even to 2 to 10 years, and this fine can be increased even to 25,000. And in case if it is mass conversion, that means more than 1 or 2 or 3 persons are getting converted on a scale, then it can be increased to 3 to 10 years, and at the same time, a fine of 50,000 can also be imposed. This is what the provision of UP law. Then, so what is the process of conversion? They have said is there will be two steps here. So first, any person who like converted, with respect to them, the police has to give some information to the magistrate. Okay, so that information after getting the declaration. Okay, so who have converted and all, two declaration forms have to be given. First is they have to show that there is no intention or there is no force on them. Okay, so we are converting ourselves voluntarily. That has to be shown. There is no force, no coercion, undue influence, etc. Then magistrate through police inquiry will inquire actually whether there is any real intention or whether there is any force. After finding out there is no force, then he'll do this thing. Okay, so whatever the personal details of the converted person will be there, that will be put in the public domain. Okay, that means in the websites and all, they'll be pasted in the notice boards and all. So if anyone says no, this person have this problem and he got religiously converted under force and all, then that can be cancelled. In that way, they're trying to ensure that religious conversions are not happening in the state of UP, right? So then this is most important. Okay, what are the arguments against the law? That means you should not allow any anti-conversion laws. Means there is right to life and there is right to freedom of religion also. We cannot ensure all the time. We cannot see whether that person has converted himself voluntarily or no. Right? That cannot be proven also sometimes. Right? In case if they are voluntarily converting themselves, if they can prove, then their freedom of religion is getting compromised. Yes or no? That is how it is violating your right to life as well as freedom of religion. Then ambiguity in definitions. What forms the force? What forms the coercion? What forms undue influence? That is not clearly defined under the law. That is the main problem in Indian legal system. If you see, most of the laws, they'll say the punishments, they'll give everything, but they don't define what actually comes under it. Right? There will be a lot of scope for interpretation. And the burden of proof means who have to prove that I didn't do this by force and all, means it's the accused. That means the person on whom the charges were leveled. That person have to take that burden and he has to show I didn't commit by force or something. Okay. Then social polarization. This law, in case if we bring, there will be further divisions. Polarization means further divisions within the society. This is what the arguments against the law of anti-conversion brought by UP government. Then what are the favor arguments if you see? Prevention of forced conversions, because certain castes or certain religious communities are exploited to get converted. So that will be stopped in case if you have such law. At the same time, preservation of social harmony, right? At the same time, deterrence against conversion rockets. There will be taking some money to convert. Okay, so there will be different persons and all. Promotion of religious freedom with responsibility. At the same time, backing the public opinion. So what is public opinion? That you have to reflect actually. So then what you can suggest as a way ahead here? What can be the way forward to such issue in case if you have to write in mains? So what would you suggest? Implement? Okay. Any other way ahead? Yes. So we need to, because most of the times people may not know also, right? So there is a freedom of religion. So if I'm getting forcibly converted, I have to raise that complaint or I can go to the police station and all. How many are aware of this particular law, right? So you have to increase awareness. At the same time, always you need to ensure nothing will harm the social fabric in the society, right? So we need to keep ourselves united for the time being. Yes or no? If you are not united and if there is further polarization in the society, definitely it may become a weapon in different other elements also, right? So always you need to maintain social unity and harmony. That's the way ahead. Then answer this question. There is no right to convert others into one's religion. Okay, you cannot make any other one converted, but you can convert yourself through your own choice. Okay. Then next article we have is right to be forgotten. Okay. So what is the context of this? Right to be forgotten means what? Gajni laga machpodama. Right. See, for example, if your data, because of some reason, is in the public domain, okay, so that is no longer needed actually. Then you can ask that particular data to be erased. That is what we call right to be forgotten. For example, for this important thing is there is one case. If you understand this case, I'll don't think I'm explaining more cases. If you explain, you need not remember all these cases. But if you understand the case, then you will easily understand the essence of that particular thing. Okay. This is Zorawar Singh Mandi versus Union of India case. Okay, so this person was actually a US resident, you can say Indian origin only, US resident. Okay, so when he came to India, there is some allegations that he has involved in narcotic smuggling and all. So he was arrested initially. Then some charges will be leveled, right? When any person was arrested under PCPNDT Act or something, some charges were leveled. So then what happened? He was arrested, but later on, after proper trial and all, it was found that this person was not actually guilty. They have released, right? But when this particular thing happened, lot of media or newspapers and everything has reported that this person and all, right? So all that is available in the public domain, right? So after getting released, so when he tried to apply for a job, then the job was rejected that you already have a criminal charge leveled against you. But that was not actually true. Court itself has declared you are not actual part of this particular thing. Then he has first time raised that I need to have a right of erasure or right to be forgotten because I actually doesn't have any connection, but still I have lost some mental peace and all because of some reason. Now all the data has to be erased because it is not anymore relevant. So please erase my data. That is the main thing he has asked. If you see, the origin of this particular concept is in European Union in 2018. European Union, you know, a block of 27 countries as of now in Europe, right? So they have brought a law called General Protection of Digital Rights Act. Okay, GPDR we call. So in this particular act, they have given under their act Article 17. It's not Indian Constitution, it is this act. Okay, Article 17 has given a right to erase or right to erasure. That means if any particular data is not required, that data has to be erased from the public domain. Okay. So suddenly think a situation where if same thing happens, okay. So most of the times what happens, if anything happens, we generally make a person as the accused, media trials, everything happens. Later on, if that person was not actually found guilty, then all that burden he has to face, right? The society will be labeling him as this particular person and all. So he has to face a lot of agony also, right? For that reason only, there should be some right of erasure, which we call it as right to be forgotten. So why this concept has emerged is recently Supreme Court said, okay, there is an online legal chronicle called Indian Kanun, okay. So that website, they wanted this outcome to shape the right to be forgotten. Okay, so there's some case happened and all. You need not go into that particular thing. But for the first time, Supreme Court said we will examine whether right to be forgotten is also a fundamental right. You know, once if it is a fundamental right, it will be guaranteed by the Constitution of India. That means you have to be ensured that fundamental right, whatever the case may be, right? So till now, the status of this right to be forgotten is not legally a fundamental right in India. But there are different types of Supreme Court and High Court judgments which said it is also part of Article 21 because, see, right to life under Article 21 doesn't only include right to life but right to dignified life. Here, can this person live a dignified life if that particular data is available on the public domain? That is why Article 21 not only includes right to life but dignified life. So, what is violating your dignified life? If some improper data is on the public domain, then you can also ask for right to erasure. So in that context, Supreme Court said we are ready to examine whether this is a fundamental right or not. We'll decide. Okay, that is the context of this. So first thing, what is right to be forgotten? Right to have any publicly available data that is personal. Personal data means it can be name, biometrics, or anything, date of birth, address, etc. on internet or search engines or databases or websites or any other public platforms. If they are there, then this has the right to be erased also. Right to be erased will be the right to be forgotten. This is a statutory right in European Union, where I told you general data protection regime is the very first time this particular right has originated. So what is the origin of this particular right means? There is a Google Spain case. This is the origin of this case. So in this, what happened for the first time? One of the court in UK, they have given a Spain lawyer for the first time right to erase his data, the past criminal data and all. So in that way, this case has originated in European Union. Later on, that also has inspired many others in India also. When one particular right is there abroad, same thing will be demanded, right? So if you see, previously we didn't have homosexuality accepted in India, but now, in Western countries it's accepted, right? But now we are also accepting. That means when some rights, if you say liberty, equality, fraternity in French Revolution, that has inspired our Indian Constitution also. When something is positive and doing good, everyone wants that particular right. Yes or no? In the same way, we also started asking for right to be forgotten. So if you see what is a position in India, there is no statutory framework. Means no law is directly giving you the right to be forgotten, because we are saying that is part of Article 21, but it is not clearly defined or clearly expressed by Supreme Court or any law so far, right? Then if you see, but there is a law, Personal Data Protection Bill. Okay, so this was given in 2019, but later on it was remodified and it got a different picture and all. But in this particular bill also, which was not passed, but in a different form it was passed, this also first time recognized there should be right to be forgotten. Okay, this is the brief background. Then if you see this Personal Data Protection Bill, they also have given an individual have the right to restrict or prevent or any continued disclosure of personal data when he has served the purpose. Already if the purpose is served, for example, if one person have done a crime, that particular data is available in the public database. So after all his trial or all his sentence is over, he already got released. Now is the requirement of storing the data still there? That can be erased after his sentence, after getting released and all. That means when the purpose is served, you can have the right to be erased. Okay. Then if the individuals have made their consent to give, and na data undali, and if I allow, okay, if I have no objection to store my data or to publicize my data, then it can be there or it can be withdrawn. Then it also has created a controversial provision with respect to PDP bill that I'll explain now. So if you see, in 2017, there is a famous case, very important case, which one need to remember, case Puttaswamy versus Union of India case. For the very first time, in this case, Supreme Court said right to privacy is part of your Article 21, right to life. Okay, right to life and liberty. So in this only they said right to be forgotten is also your privacy. Yes or no? So whether you want it to be public or not is your privacy right. That is also part of Article 21. That means this is what indirectly we are saying, but there is no law or no judgment of Supreme Court directly saying. So now if Supreme Court says right to be forgotten is part, then it is your fundamental right. But if it is not fundamental right, you cannot get any benefit until unless. Okay. In 2019, right to be forgotten and right to be left alone. This right to be left alone was given in one of the case, and then they said both are part of right to privacy. To have privacy, you have the right to be left alone, at the same time right to be forgotten also, right? Then when can be this exercised? So you can see individual can be in a position to remove his personal data. There is no legitimate interest. That means if there is no interest by the government, that means if government doesn't require the data, that can be erased. At the same time, right cannot be exercised because see certain types. Okay, so for example, you can take the case of MP. Okay, if any person is contesting like an MP, there are certain things they have to do. Like for example, Election Commission or even the Supreme Court also has mandated they have to disclose all the criminal charges leveled against them, right? So if they have any criminal charges in their nomination papers, they have to state that I have this criminal charge against me. Until unless if they don't state, what happens? Opposition members know what is the criminal record and all. If they don't state, that will be a ground for even disqualification of the person also. You have to state if you have criminal charge, right? So any criminal charge, even the persons who are in jail also can contest elections. There is nothing on that particular thing which is limiting them. But here, in case if they are not disclosing the data, okay, then this person can raise the objection, or any other person who is knowing about his background and all. For example, if this person has disclosed certain data, okay, then if he wants, after getting elected and all, if he wants to say na panai paina, I got elected, please delete all my data, then that cannot be done. Why? Because being a public representative, we who have elected that MP have that fundamental freedom of speech and expression, because we actually voted for him. We need to know the information related to him and all. So in certain instances, that particular data cannot be withdrawn, because if there is a right to freedom of speech and expression, again in contravention with right to be forgotten. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఒక పర్సన్ ఎంపీకి ఏమో రైట్ టు బి ఫర్గాటెన్, ఫర్ అస్ ఇట్ ఈస్ రైట్ టు బి part of your freedom of speech and expression. So when these two are in contravention, then your right to be forgotten will not be exercised, because here it is one individual, but on the other side you have entire society or entire public, right? So which is majority? It is public. Public interest has to be upheld, right? For that reason, it need not be again disclosed. And in compliance of legal obligations, if any court cases are pending or if they wanted to further inquire, that can be kept as it is. And in public interest also, some data has to be kept as it is. At that time, in these three instances, right to be forgotten cannot be exercised, right? That is clear. Then, so already Delhi High Court also said right to privacy always should be balanced with right to information. Okay, right to privacy includes right to be forgotten. That should be balanced with your freedom of speech and expression also, right? Then if you see here, so what are the questions the Supreme Court is going to address is whether right to be forgotten is a fundamental right or not. If fundamental right, under which particular thing it will be guaranteed. Okay, so that is what Supreme Court will examine in future. So two questions will be before the Supreme Court. So whether criminal person who is released on the grounds of the conviction and all, can he exercise this right of right to be forgotten? Because normally if you see in all the police stations there will be this CCTNS, criminal tracking system, central criminal tracking network system. So where they'll be maintaining a database of all the persons who got arrested, so that in the next instance, if there is any crime, they'll check that fingerprints and photographs and all. Easy, it will be in the investigation and all. So if such for right to be forgotten is exercised, then such data cannot be maintained, right? So for that reason, whether criminal person, okay, who actually got reversal of his conviction, that means conviction means what? If any person is found guilty, conviction is the opposite of acquisition. Acquisition means that person can be acquitted, he can be left free. So in case if a person initially was convicted, like I told you in Zorawar Singh case, okay, so afterwards what happened? He, in that instance, can he demand erasure or not? That can also be a question which Supreme Court will look. And in case if a high court, if it reverses judgment of the lower court, at that time also, can it ask any web portal to delete all that particular data or not? So these are the two questions which Supreme Court will like examine, and it will interpret whether it is part of Article 21 or not. Clear? So, am I going fast? I think no, right? So you might have again some confusions and all, because this is the very first time you're listening to different concepts, especially beaten people. But it will take time. Okay, don't worry. Try to understand as much as you can, right? So next topic from IR is Quad, right? Quad means, quadrilateral means a group of four, right? So here it is a geopolitical thing where four countries, India, Japan, Australia, US. Okay, so these four have come together in the name of Quad. Quad is an informal grouping. It's not a formal group. Informal grouping. Why did they form? In 2007, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Okay, so if you have remembered last year, he was killed, shooted. Okay, so in Japan he was died mysteriously. So this person has given this concept of Quad. So what is the main object of Quad is? Here, if you see, what is this area? Indo-Pacific, because see, this is Indian Ocean and this is Pacific Ocean. Indo-Pacific Ocean. So you know what is the main thing we have trouble here? China, right? So as China is trying to assert its influence more in the Pacific Ocean, so all these four countries which feel the common threat of China wants to have free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. Free means in the sense China should not control it, because China and Japan also has some dispute here. Okay, in this area also China is claiming all that area is mine. Okay, every island is mine, and also South China Sea dispute will be, you will be hearing in IR and all. So this is what happening. So every country wants free, open. Open means without any restrictions. Inclusive. Inclusive means everyone. Okay, including everyone. So in this way, Indo-Pacific should be having an objective of free, open, inclusive Indo-Pacific. Okay, so for that reason, these four countries came together as Quad. Right, that is the main objective. But they didn't say openly that we are against China. But implicitly, it is there as against China only. So now, why we're discussing this? Recently, foreign ministers of these four countries have met. Okay, So every year they will be meeting at one place and all. So they have met and they said, we want to extend in maritime security. They wanted to extend Indo-Pacific, whatever the partnership they have now, that they wanted to shift towards Indian Ocean region. Okay, why? Because till now Quad has focused only on Indo-Pacific region, but now they also want to cover Indian Ocean. Why? China is trying to increase its presence in Indian Ocean also. It's trying to build some ports. It is trying to extend some military bases in Indian Ocean. For that reason, for the first time, they said not only in Indo-Pacific, we are trying to focus on the Indian Ocean also. This is an important thing. Then what is what I told you? It is a informal grouping of 4 countries of India, US, Japan, Australia, right? Then what is this IPMDA, Indo-Pacific Partnership for Maritime Agreement and Awareness? So it is nothing but in 2022 Tokyo Quad Summit, this was given for the first time where they wanted to create maritime awareness. Maritime means sea, okay? So sea related awareness with respect to different issues, okay? So how to ensure security, how to have a safe trade and other things that will be part of this dialogue. So then if you see, what is the aim? To promote maritime security and awareness in the Indo-Pacific region, this is having, and to target dark shipping. Dark shipping means without proper identification, sometimes pirates or some other persons will be attacking and all. So they will have this particular watch house, whether there is a dark shipping in the Indo-Pacific, if there is anything, they'll try to prevent it. That in that way they have that cooperation. The same time, they also want to build up a like you can say comprehensive picture where they wanted to integrate Pacific Islands, Southeast Asia, and also Indian Ocean regions. So these are all in the Indo-Pacific only. So to monitor and to have a good, you can say cooperation and everything or vigilance over this region, they wanted to integrate all these islands together or the areas together to have a better watch. Then if you see, what is this expansion mean? Now from Pacific Islands, they wanted to extend this to Indian Ocean region, okay? Southeast Asia is the area where I have shown you here. This is Southeast Asia, right? So we are in the Southern Asia and this is the Southeast Asia. We have all the Asian countries, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, etc. and all, okay? So these are forming part of Southeast Asia. So these countries also will get covered now, okay? Then if you see, this is further again, as I told you, free, open, inclusive, Indo-Pacific is the main objective, which reinforced again. Then Indian Navy is also trying to maintain a information fusion center. That means they're trying to get all the information related to what is going on in the Indian Ocean, Indo-Pacific Ocean, and then maintaining some set of data. So that is also the main objective here. Then next topic is related to environment from union budget. Okay, so we have taken this concept. Why? Because in the recent budget, you know, on July 23rd, no, we can have better awareness about the maritime things, right? So what you are doing now, that again you can have enhanced understanding whatever the data you collect from Japan, Australia. You can have only which is proximate to India. But Australia is also part of Indian Ocean, right? What is so close to Australia, what is going on near Japan, that data also can have access, right? Agents. Okay. Then next topic we have is natural farming. In the recent budget, our Union Finance Minister said we are trying to bring at least 1 crore farmers into natural farming, right? So why natural farming itself means without use of any chemicals or pesticides and everything, right? So why? Because you know when you use this pesticides and all, you may have some increase in the crop yield and time being some crops or attacks can be prevented. But at the same time, due to this soil pollution, water pollution, even health of the farmers is also at risk, right? Because they expose that particular chemical and all. And it may also lead to climate change because you know certain harmful things will be released into the environment. So in this context, we have this traditional concept of natural farming. And second aspect is even farmers when they have to use these chemicals and fertilizers and all, they have to use so much of money, right? So most of the times when they spend more amount on inputs, if they don't get that much yield in return, they'll fall into the debt trap. Yes or no? So money lenders will be exploiting the farmers and all. So to prevent this, our budget has proposed at least 1 crore farmers will be brought into natural farming. So in this context, you need to know what is natural farming and what are the advantages and disadvantages. Is there any such concept existing in India in which particular states will see? Okay. So first thing, This concept actually was proposed by a Japanese farmer in 1975 itself. His name you need not remember. But if you say this is a sustainable practice, sustainable means which is having not only satisfying your needs, but if it satisfies futuristic needs of the next generations also, we call it a sustainable agriculture practice, which focus on chemical free farming. You're not using any sort of chemicals here, right? Then indigenous cows means you wanted to reduce the cost of the production. Okay, how you're going to reduce the cost? By not using any chemicals or fertilizers. The same time, you're trying to use the locally available things. Okay, like cow dung, cow urine will be there. So those will be mixed and they'll make a concoction and all using the del spray so that insecticides will, these insects and all will not come and all. In that way, whatever the locally available materials are there, we are trying to use that and who is that? Once check it out. Okay. Once please check, verify. If anything is there, please put on silent mode. Once verify everyone's mobile, no, you can at least sense that it is your in locality or not. Once check. Okay. So see, let us consider. So what they'll do is they're trying to minimize the cost of production by acquiring or by using different things which are available locally. Okay, like indigenous cows and all locally available materials. So first, if you see, it is avoiding chemicals and fertilizers and using traditional methods that are free because farmers need to decrease the cost or the main things which they spend on inputs. Okay, not getting the chemicals and fertilizers and all. So in that way, they can decrease the input cost. So if you have seen this Raitu Bandhu or PM Kisan, what we have in the form of input support only, no? So to buy all these things, we are giving some cash, right? So again, this concept, if we are implementing, then these things can be saved, yes or no? Government can save this money in the form of PM Kisan and all. If you are using everything and if nothing has to be bought again, right? So that is the advantage. So then if you see, this approach normally involves these things. First is biomass. What is biomass? Any living organisms, right? So whatever the thing that is prepared, like for example, leaves can be leaves if they're dried, again, so microorganisms in the soil make them into humus. So in that way, mulching. Mulching is an important term. Mulching means covering the top layer of the soil with dry leaves, dead matter and all. Okay, why? Because if you keep that open, when there is a wind or when there is a rainfall and all, soil gets eroded. When the soil gets eroded, nutrients in the soil also will be lost, right? For that reason, mulching means covering the top layer of the soil with dry leaves, etc. and all, which we call it as biomass mulching. If you do this, you can protect your soil from erosion. Then desi cow dung and urine formulations. Okay, using your indigenous cows and dung. Okay, you can mix them and you can spray as a insecticide and all. Then natural nutrient cycling also. If you are using natural products, nutrients also get enriched in the soil. In that way, you need not again apply something artificially to enhance the soil quality. These are the main things. Then there is also a national mission on natural farming already announced previously. That is Bharatiya Prakritik Krishi Paddhati. Prakritik means natural, Krishi means farming. Okay, so farmer related Paddhati that was announced in 2023-24. Okay, so here what is the main thing? They wanted to adopt natural farming at least so that 1 crore farmers get benefit from this. Then if you see, what are the benefits? What can be the environmental benefits if you are going for natural farming? Increase in the soil quality, decreased water pollution. When you study environment, you'll be studying the concept of eutrophication. What is eutrophication? Most of the times the fertilizers what are sprayed, okay, they have NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, right? So when there is more nutrient application by excessively spraying the pesticides and all, what happens? So if you are spraying like this, okay, so all this may not go into deep, right? So this may be like this one. Suddenly if there is a rain, all this will be washed away and they get accumulated in one water pond or tank, right? That means there is increased concentration of nitrogen than what is required, right? When there is increased concentration of nitrogen than what is required, that leads to eutrophication. That means there will be less oxygen available for all the organisms to breathe in. When there is less oxygen available, what happens? They'll die. Okay. Again, when one particular organism dies, what happens? Microorganisms uses more oxygen to decompose. For them, they'll use more oxygen. Already there is in short oxygen. So further other organisms will not have oxygen. Again, in that way, entire marine organisms or the ecosystem will suffer the death. Okay. So in that way, this is also leading to the concept of eutrophication. So these type of problems can be solved if you're resort or if you're changing yourself to natural forming, right? Then what is the other benefit? Reduced pollution, and you can also decrease the climate change. So these are the certain environmental benefits, right? So then if you see from consumer point of view, from our point of view, what will be the benefit if you are having safe food, no? If you eat organic things and all, if you see in the recent times, everything is labeled as organic. We don't know how much, but still most of the customers are also trying to buy organic things and all, right? So that is gaining prominence again. So if you have this, you have good health and well-being. So what is the SDG? Good health and well-being. SDG 3, Sustainable Development Goal 3, talks about good health and well-being. Okay. Then from farmers' perspective, decreased cost. Then he can protect his health also, right? So in Maharashtra, previously in 2-3 years back, I guess. So by just continuously exposing themselves to the harmful pesticides and all, 3 persons have died because of lung cancers and also that means that much harmful chemicals they will be continuously exposed. No, most of the times when they spray also they don't use mask and everything, right? So that may be a health issue also. Then higher return, not all the time, but still you can see. So these are certain benefits, okay, of natural farming. Then what can be the challenges? Here, although we may have these many benefits, what is the main problem is in India, do remember this is very important. There is only one complete organic state, that is Sikkim. Okay, in Sikkim, 100% agriculture is natural farming only. Okay, so although it has converted totally, but now if you see before conversion, whatever the yield it used to get, now if you compare, there is a decrease in yield. That means if you completely shift to natural farming, you cannot all the time guarantee that you get a better crop yield. Okay, so we make it, we may not get. Like so, in that way, first time there is a notice in yield drop also. And if you have remembered, in AP also they have introduced zero budget natural farming. So when in these areas when it was introduced, they also have observed that there's a decrease in yield, right? So like others, we are not getting other good yield. Then conviction among policymakers. Conviction means to make it also many of the political persons or policymakers are not ready. They're not evenly accepting this. Then resistance by the chemical input industries. You know, in India, business is again dominating the politics, right? Pharma, chemicals, and all. So they will exert some pressure on the government if they completely shift to zero budget natural farming. Entire industry will collapse, right? So that is how they may exert some pressure. At the same time, knowledge and training also should be given. So what has to be mixed and how it has to be delivered. Farmers have to be trained and they have to have that knowledge and economic viability also. Okay, so not every farmer may not have indigenous cow and all. If they don't have, okay, where they have to buy, how they have to do and all, that is also a challenge. Then if you see, this concept is also similar, zero budget natural farming. Okay, so this was actually given by Subhash Kalekar. Okay, so this person has given this concept for which she was awarded with Padma Shri also. Okay, so this person said without using any fertilizers, zero budget means putting zero into the means in the form of money into the farming without spending any rupee, you can do farming. That is what the concept of zero budget natural farming. So these 4 items are important. Okay, so first component is Bijamrit. Bijamrit means seeds you have to mix with cow dung and cow urine, so they will have better generation or germination, you can say, right? That is the main concept. Then Jivamrit. Jivamrit means once if you mix all this cow dung, urine, jaggery, pulse from false floor and other uncontaminated soils and all, you can enhance the quality of the soil by more increased activity of microorganisms. Soil health will be better increased. Then Achadana or mulching. Mulching, I told you, covering the top layer so that to prevent soil erosion and all. Vapasa is soil erosion, where you will be mixing 50% air and 50% water vapor in soil particles so that they'll have that exposure, okay, to the soil and all. So in this way, these four components will be part of zero budget natural farming, okay, proposed by Subhash Kalekar. So this is similar to natural farming only, but one concept. Then what is the way ahead? We have seen the benefits and challenges both. No? Then what we can suggest as a way ahead? So before introducing anything, okay, we have to take consultation of the stakeholders, right? Why? Because if you implement suddenly and if there is decreased yield, then you need to import. Food scarcity will be coming a main challenge, right? So we need to take care about food security of the country also. So before taking any such decision, we need to consult the required stakeholders, and then what is proper only we have to go ahead, right? So in that way, you have to suggest the way ahead. Then coming to this, what is this? This is Hulog gibbon. Okay, one of the ape, ape, right? So why we are discussing this is in the state of Assam, this particular wildlife sanctuary. Okay, so this is recently given permission for oil and other gas drilling and all. Wildlife sanctuary means a protected area, especially to conserve one particular species. State government may designate an area as wildlife sanctuary. Okay, national park will have a wider protection than wildlife sanctuary, because if you see in terms of protection, inside a national park there cannot be any human settlement. No human can reside, no agriculture, no nothing will be done. Okay, complete protection will be there. But in wildlife sanctuary, there can be some human presence, but in a controlled way it will be there. That's the main difference. Both national park and wildlife sanctuaries will be designated by state government. Okay, but if they wanted to change the boundaries of these two, they have to take the permission of a body called National Board for Wildlife. This will be headed by the Prime Minister directly. They have to give approval if they wanted to increase the area or decrease the area. But making a national park or wildlife sanctuary is in the hands of state government only. Even a tiger reserve also, it's the choice of state government. Okay. Then see first here, as I told you, see here, another difference you can keep is wildlife sanctuaries will be designated to conserve one species. For example, if as we have seen here, Hulog gibbon is there, right? So this particular thing is very rarely found only in the state of Assam in India. If you don't protect that particular thing, in which particular forest it is living and all, then we may lose that also, right? For that reason, to conserve this particular thing, we can designate an area as wildlife sanctuary. But in national park, not only for one particular thing, to conserve entire ecosystem, entire flora and fauna, then we can make a larger area as a national park, right? In terms of difference, that is the thing you have to keep in mind. Then, what is that wildlife sanctuary we are discussing about? Holongapur Wildlife Sanctuary, Gibbon Wildlife Sanctuary, Gibbon because it was mainly there for its protection. Okay, so what is the context? Ministry of Environment has allowed oil and gas drilling in this particular wildlife sanctuary, because as I told you, in national park nothing will be allowed. Complete protection will be there, but in wildlife sanctuaries some permission based things can be allowed. Okay, so but again environmentalists will oppose this, because anything oil and drilling, if you do, lot of soil pollution, contamination will happen, water also. It's not good for these animals also. If they hear lot of sound and all, again that may trouble them and all. So right. So that's a different story. But why I'm discussing this issue is UPSC have this tendency of asking some national parks and wildlife sanctuaries which are in news because of some reason. Okay. Previously they have asked, and especially the things from Northeast, they're much interested, because everyone focuses on mainland India only. UPSC focuses on some another thing. You need to understand their mind. Okay, so we have to do the reverse case, right? So if for example, if one particular thing is in news, let's consider tiger. Okay, so if you have seen this year cheetah, because of reintroduction and all, it was so much in news. So if cheetah is there, everyone will read about cheetah, but it will focus on tiger, which is also belonging to same cat family and all. Okay, in that way you need to master how UPSC can ask the question. If you can master, definitely you can clear with a good score, right? So if you see this particular wildlife sanctuary have evergreen forests. Apes and chimpanzees and everything, they live in evergreen forests. Evergreen means all the year there will be green. There won't be any shedding of leaf. Okay, they never turn yellow, right? You see this in India named after a gibbon, because this gibbon is the only ape which in India, and it is only found in the state of Assam. If such things are there, it is very important for you to remember, because elephants ante ekkadaina untayi, right? So you need not specifically remember where it will be there and all. But when you have gibbons and such animals which are unique to one particular location, you need to remember, right? Then if you see, river is passing through this wildlife sanctuaries, Bogdai River. Okay, so sometimes they're also asking this. You need to remember. And India's only gibbon, that is Hulok gibbon, is residing only in this particular thing, and it is only nocturnal. Nocturnal means active during night time. Okay, they generally be active during night time, and it's a primate. Primate is a mammalian species to which this monkey, chimpanzees belong. We also are primates only, right? You'll be studying in anthropology, right? Then white category states. Okay, sorry, category sectors. What is white category means? Which are non-polluting. Okay, so non-polluting in a sense, for establishing any industry, you need to take permissions from the environmental boards and all, right? So one such thing is CPCB, Central Pollution Control Board. Okay, so pollution control boards you'll be having, right? So they have to certify that you're not going to release anything harm into the environment. Okay, so based on that, if they are not emitting anything harm, then we call it as white. If they release certain amount, red, orange. Red means completely they should not emit anything. They have to change their functioning and all. Okay, so in that way, white category status or sectors are nothing but which are non-polluting, which are designated by CPCB, and they don't require any prior permission. Okay, if you're non-polluting, if you're doing anything sustainable, for example, if you're going to manufacture anything in a sustainable way, then you need not apply for permission also, because you're non-polluting. That means you form under white category, right? That is what the meaning. So if anything is not getting polluted in the context of air or water, then you can call it as white category. These terms can be asked in prelims, and they can ask you what is white category sector referring to. Okay, if you don't know the context of pollution, then you may be trapped by the options. Okay, then so if you see here, what generally will be forming part of white category? Anything related to wind energy, solar energy. Okay, so air cooler assemblies and all. So these generally forms under white category sectors. Then if you see, what basis are actually classifying something as white, orange, red means based on pollution index. How much is the pollution released from that particular thing? Based on that, they're releasing. So whether what is the level of emissions, or how much waste is getting generated, how much is the resource consumption, that means how many resources are consuming. Based on this, they're assessing. And if you see, this is a scale 0 to 100, higher is the greater pollution. So red, if you see, pollution index score of 60 and above, that means they don't generally allow these things until unless they change their system of manufacturing. Orange 41 to 59, you need not remember, just for your idea. Okay, green, this is allowed, but they have to take some care. Then white, they don't even require prior permission from CPCB. That is what the context. Then we have Climate Finance Action Fund. So what is this particular topic mean? So you know, we are facing climate change. With respect to this, all UN countries had a convention called UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right? So every year, the members to this convention with the name Conference of Parties meet in one particular location. Okay, this year, as I told you already in the introduction class, COP29, 29th meeting of members is going to be held in Azerbaijan, its capital Baku. Okay, so this is the thing where they wanted to introduce this fund, Climate Finance Action Fund. So for what reasons? You know, if anything is generated from the fossil fuels, you know, fossil fuels means coal, petrol, diesel, etc. So they're harming the environment by releasing certain things into the environment, right? So whatever these industries are there, which are mainly responsible for fossil fuels, like petroleum industry and all, they have to give all the money, certain money, to this fund. If that fund is there with some money, what they'll be doing? They'll be giving support to develop some clean energy things. At the same time, they also will take some measures to minimize the increase in temperatures. So that is the main objective of establishment of this fund. So any fund or anything related to climate will be very important from UPSC perspective. Okay, because this is a combined examination for UPSC Civil Services and Indian Forest Service, right? So that is the context. So how much they wanted to raise up from fossil industries? Almost $1 billion. This will be only the number that will not realize anytime. You will study, okay? So just it's a projection, it will not fill anytime. So then they'll be taking this money from fossil fuel producing industries. Then where they will be spending on clean energy. Clean energy in the sense solar energy, wind energy, so such renewable energies, energy efficiency. Now we see traditional things are replaced with LEDs and all. We ought to save energy also. Climate resilience, and also we have new technologies. New technologies in the sense we have biofuels, we have hydrogen cells, we have like this. Okay, so half of the money will be going to these projects, which are clean energy projects, and rest of the half money will go to nationally determined contributions. So what is this nationally determined contribution? To fight climate change, okay, as I told you, there is one convention, UNFCCC. As part of that, there is a Paris Agreement, okay, so that was signed in 2021, so 2015. So what happened at that point of time? India also, to fight climate change, I want to do this, okay, so I'm trying to decrease this emissions from my side as a contribution to minimize the climate change and all. So we have said how many principles? Panchamrit principles. 5. Panchamrit. That is the term our Prime Minister has given. Panchamrit means 5 principles we wanted to do from our side. One is we wanted to increase the share of renewable energy. Renewable energy means solar, wind, all the sources. So now if you know, at least to 50%. That means presently, you know, in India's energy share, what is the primary thing? Coal. We are getting maximum energy. More than 65% to 70% is coming from coal. Coal is non-renewable, right? So what India has committed is we wanted to increase our renewable energy share in the total energy share to at least 50% by 2030. This is the very first goal or the main target India has set for itself. Okay. Then it wants to also increase non-fossil share. Non-fossil means again renewable sources only by at least 45%. Here it is in terms of energy, but in here it is in terms of fuel. Okay. Then third, it wants to reduce carbon intensity. Carbon intensity, at least 33% carbon emissions have to be decreased compared to 2005 levels. That means in 2005, how many carbon emissions on average we have emitted into the atmosphere? That out of that percentage, at least 33% we have to decrease the emissions. Okay, how much we wanted to reach this by? Again 2030. Then by raising trees or growing trees and all, we wanted to at least capture 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon emissions by 2030. This is another target, and we wanted to achieve zero emissions or net neutrality. Sorry, carbon neutral. Carbon neutral by 2070. So here you are going to decrease the emissions, okay, billion tons of carbon emissions by 2030. That much amount quantity wise. Here, what is this carbon neutrality? Carbon neutrality in the sense how much you are going to emit, the same thing you try to absorb. For example, if you are emitting 10 units of carbon, then if you grow some 10 trees or 20 trees, if carbon, you know, carbon sinks we have. Carbon sinks means which capture carbon. See, carbon in the atmosphere is only dangerous. But if that same carbon is present in the tree roots, or if you can see in the underground storage and systems and all, there it is safe. We should not have carbon because it is a greenhouse gas which increases the temperature of the earth, right? So that is why whatever the carbon emissions are there, by growing trees and plants, we are trying to capture it when we are trying to absorb it. When your emissions are equal to absorption, that is what we call carbon neutral. We wanted to achieve this by 2070. Very, very important target. Okay, it is 2070 for India, but for European countries it is only 2050. Some countries even have kept earlier targets, but India has kept it by 2070. So these are all 5 Panchamrit principles or nationally determined contributions. That means we are determined for ourselves to fight on our respect, okay, towards our country. We wanted to develop. Why? Because in case if we don't take these measures, then global average temperatures will increase more than 1.5. If that happens, you are not going to stop any consequences of climate change. That means it will cross within our hand. Okay, it will go beyond this. So you cannot stop whatever the climate change consequences happen. You cannot prevent it. So if it is well below 1.5 degree only, we can stop anything. That is why every country has kept its own targets. Our targets are these, right? That is what you have to understand. Then 20% of the funds also will support disasters. You know, when climate change happens, what happens? Sea level rises, island countries are more vulnerable. Okay, they easily gets flooded and all, or coastal communities also will experience more increase in the intensity of cyclones and tsunamis, right? So for them, in case if they're suffering, 20% of this climate action finance fund money will be given. Okay, this is the context. Is that clear? Right. Then we also have one institution in news is Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. You know what is cybercrime? Okay, using systems or networks to do any illegal acts. Okay, like you know, different things will be there, pornographies or hacking or even deep fakes. You can say, okay, threatening anyone, hacking, everything is a cybercrime, right? So morphing, right? So what happens is when you have any cybercrime in India, we have two centers mainly. One is certain Computer Emergency Response Team India. This is a nodal agency which immediately reacts. That means if public, for example, if PMO website is there that got hacked, Prime Minister's office, right? So if their website got hacked, who will take care? It is certain. Okay, immediately there will be some cybercrime experts. Take care, take care. So there will be some team of cyber crime experts. They will be taking care. Okay, so how to resolve and how to get the data back. So then we also have this I4C, four C's, four C's we have Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, four C's. That is why it is called I4C. So this is an institution under Ministry of Electronics Information Technology, MEITY. Okay. So but now what happened is this has been upgraded as attached office to Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay. So this upgradation happened. For that reason, it was in news. So what is the benefit? When it is attached office, it will have more operational independence and more resources also will be there so that it can prevent any cyber crimes. So that is the main benefit. So initially it was established under Ministry of Home Affairs under one particular decision in 2018. So what is the objective? To curb cyber crimes. That's it. Okay. But here the main trap can be in the prelims. They can change it with Ministry of Electronics. It is Ministry of Home Affairs now as an attached office. Okay. Generally, because when we come across cyber related things, we confuse it with electronics and information technology. Then the next topic of discussion is lithium, right? You might have heard about lithium in the recent times, right? So lithium is becoming a rare metal also. Why? Because in your mobile phones to support your battery or in electric vehicles also, EVs and all, they're using this lithium batteries, right? So but you know, lithium is a rare metal that is not easily found in the Earth's crust. So it is found very rare. And in India, if you see, we have some reserves of lithium, but those are not exploited well. So that is the reason we are taking most of the reserves of lithium, whatever we want for our needs and all, from China and other countries. So if you see in India, these are the pockets. So here, Jammu and Kashmir, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, you have Jharkhand, some states of Northeast you also have. And recently, in the state of Karnataka also, lithium reserves were found. For that reason, this issue was taken, right? So if you see, how much is the global share of reserves in India? 5.9%. That means if you see these countries, okay, so these ABC we call, okay, generally you can easily remember with respect to lithium, ABC triangle. ABC means Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. These three countries have maximum reserves of lithium in the world, ABC. Next to them only Australia or China, right? So that is the first thing you have to keep in mind. Then how does lithium looks like? This is the way, okay, how it looks like generally. And you know, these three countries only have highest lithium reserves in the world. ABC. Okay. South American countries, Argentina, Bolivia, Chile. Right. Then if you see recently what happened, Atomic Minerals Directorate for Exploration of Minerals and Research, they found in Manya district and Yadgiri districts of Karnataka, lithium reserves were found. This is very important. Recently in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Ladakh also it was found. Right. So India's lithium reserves, if you see, they can ask you these type of things in prelims. Karnataka, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh. So they also have certain lithium reserves in them. Then first it was discovered in Jammu and Kashmir in 1999 and in Chhattisgarh also it was found first. Okay, but these we all already have used and now it is the time of these states, okay, where we are using, but it's not sufficient for us. So then if you see currently, India meets almost 100%, okay, because that is not in an explorable state, right? So that is why 100% we are importing from China and Hong Kong, okay? You need to keep this in mind. They can frame a statement and they can say India has this much amount of lithium reserves for its use and all. No, 100% we are taking from other countries only, right? It doesn't occur as a metal in nature. It is very rarely available because it is found only in small proportions in igneous rocks. What are igneous rocks? Which are primary rocks. You know, volcanic eruption happens when magma in the form of lava comes out after cooling. It forms into some rocks, right? That primary rock, which immediately formed after solidification of lava, we call it as igneous rocks, right? So it is just found in there. And currently, if you see, most of the lithium is produced in Chile, right? This country. Then what are the applications of lithium? Batteries, you know, EVs or even mobile phones and all. Industrial use, like in making glass, ceramics and all also. At the same time, in medical use also, they will be using this, right? I'm sorry. Uh, 1 second. Online students have responded something. Right, fine. Okay. Then next topic we have is, yes,
I used to produce a Bolivia.
see that image was last year's, that map you have seen, right? Global image, okay? But currently it is still data is correct, okay? So then if you see, this is the dark oxygen, okay? So what is this concept of dark oxygen? Generally there is a belief till now that oxygen is only available only in the shallow ocean only. That means if you go deep into the ocean, right, you know, when there is no sunlight penetration, even oxygen availability also will be less. So marine organisms cannot survive in the deep ocean near the seabed. That is what the notion we had. But for the very first time it was found certain polymetallic nodules. Polymetallic nodules mean in one particular thing. If you see this particular nodule, okay, many metals will be available in same rock, okay, which we call it as polymetallic nodules, like nickel, chromium, different things will be available in the same metal, okay. So it was found when these metals are there, they're through some process, okay. So when they undergo some process, they're releasing, like you know how batteries will generate electricity, these are also creating some process through which they're splitting water in which they're available, right? Seawater is getting converted into hydrogen and oxygen. That means if this is broken into hydrogen and oxygen, then there is a creation of oxygen, right? That means till now what we have assumed is wrong. That means even in the deep ocean floor also, because of these polymetallic nodules, there is some presence of oxygen in the deep ocean bed. That was very for the first time proven. That is why it was said as dark oxygen, because dark in the sense that area entirely will be dark, because you know when you go deep into the ocean also almost 6 kilometers or 5 kilometers, there won't be any sunlight penetration and all, right? For that reason it will be appearing dark, okay. So this was first time observed. So you can see scientists have discovered dark oxygen being produced in the deep ocean by polymetallic nodules on the seafloor, challenging the belief that it will be produced only in the areas where it is having sunlight, means only in the shallow ocean. How means these are naturally occurring polynodules like batteries. When they split electric currents or using the electric currents as splitting the seawater, which is H2O into hydrogen and oxygen. Through that, they're creating oxygen. Okay. So that what is the benefit here? If oxygen is there, it can also support deep sea life. Some organisms can survive there also. That is a benefit. But it can also lead to extraterrestrial things, means in future if we can see why most of the persons who want to dive into the deep ocean, they carry oxygen cylinders and all, because there is shortage of oxygen into the deep ocean, okay. But in these instances we can have other perspectives also in the future, right? Without oxygen cylinders also we can go, right? We can have our direct breathing and all. So then what are the concerns? So if we again have these type of things, generally what happens, if oxygen availability is there and it was announced, so everyone will try to explore something, so it may harm the marine life also in that way, right? Then ecosystem also gets destroyed and all. At the same time there won't be any regulatory overreach, or you can say regulatory oversight also will not be there, because you know in the deep oceans who have to regulate how it has to be controlled? There is no law so far, so that also becomes a challenge for us, okay. So these are the points. Then next one is notified disaster. So you know disaster is something which cause lot of disturbance to our daily life, right? So in which we suffer some damages and all, right? So notified disaster is one which is notified in the sense government is listing that this is a disaster, right? So what you consider a disaster can be a disaster, but if I don't consider, right, that is why central government, because first thing you have to keep in mind is disaster management as a subject, okay, it will fall under residuary list. You know there are three lists, right? So three lists in the sense in India, any subject, okay, will be divided into three lists. That means either into the union list where parliament can legislate, second is state list where only assemblies in normal situations, but parliament in some exceptional situations, and then concurrent. Concurrent means both parliament and assembly can make laws, but certain other things will be left, right, which are not covered in three lists. That is the residuary list. In residuary list, who have the power? It is the Parliament of India, right? So disaster management also falls under the residuary list. That means who can make law? It is Parliament, right? So with that power, it has made a law called National Disaster Management Act of 2005. This is act that was passed, okay? So in this act, whatever they specify as a disaster, for that only when the disaster happens, compensation will be given, right? For example, what is the main demand here? Ministry of State for Union Ministry of Health, Science and Technology, they said heat waves cannot be, heat waves means during summer, right? When there is a continuous increase in the temperature, at least for example, in the plain areas, we generally have average of 40 degrees, right? So compared to 40 degrees, on average for 4 days or at least 1 week, if there is more than 5 degree continuously recorded, then that will be considered as heat wave. Who is declaring this heat wave or not? It is IMD, Indian Meteorological Department we have, no? So they will designate if there is average increase of 5 degree or 7 degree on plain areas for if they are crossing more than 40 degrees for some days, not on one day, for at least on average 4 to 1 week, you can say, then it will be designated as a heat wave. In plain areas, it is 35 degree. Okay. In hilly areas, plain areas, it is 40. Right. So in that way, that means when heat waves happen, some people will be died. Okay, especially the labor who are working open and all, so they're prone to heat waves and all due to different reasons. Old people or the people who are suffering from some diseases and all, they may die, right? So when they die, generally governments will award some compensation, excretion and all, right? So for this reason, who have to give this money means state governments generally give, right? But in case if it is not notified as a disaster, all that money has to be borne by state governments only. Okay, once if it is notified as a disaster, then we already have this act, no, under which there is NDRF, National Disaster Response Fund. Force is also there, fund is also there. That means from this fund, money will be given by center to states if it is notified as a disaster. If it is not notified as a disaster, states have to bear it. That is the reason most of the states, recently even Kerala, they also have asked, please make heat wave as a disaster. Because in southern India, heat waves are more, right? Because of the closeness and to the equator and all. So for that reason, temperature is very high. So more of the people are dying in the southern India and they're asking, okay, if it is not, again, states are already having limited revenue and all. So they want this to be notified as a disaster. Okay. So they said, 15 Finance Commission said, we cannot make it as a disaster. For that reason, they said no. Okay. So 15th Finance Commission, what is the role that had in a disaster? Because Finance Commission, it is a constitutional body which will determine how much money has to be shared between center and states. For example, if 100 rupees is earned by central government, okay, so it cannot keep all 100 with it. Okay, it is also getting that money from the states, right? So again, how 100 has to be shared between center and states. Currently, 15 Finance Commission said 41 rupees have to be given to the states, right? Rest of the 59 rupees have to be kept with the center. That money they can use in different reasons and all, right? But 41% of money which center is earning has to be given to different states. How states have to be given, again, difference depends on the performance of different states. Okay, so see, this is the concept where when center and states are having this concept divided, we call it as vertical devolution. Vertical in the sense from center to states, right? But how the states are getting this 41? This is called horizontal devolution, right? Here 59 for the center, and 41 for the states. This is called vertical devolution. But again, 41 rupees gets divided among the states, no? That we call it as horizontal devolution. this will be determined. For 15 finance commission, it is 41. For next commission, it may be 50 also. Okay, depending on the situation, performance of states, and in everything, revenue and all, they will determine that percentage. Okay, so it is because again money has to come from the center only to the states, right? That is why this finance commission said we are not making this as a disaster. Here you have to keep in mind, currently there are 12 categories of notified disasters. That means only in these situations only center will give money to the states, right? What are those? Cyclones, generally this will be seen in the news. Droughts, earthquake, fires, floods, tsunami, hailstorms, right? Hailstorms mean Vadagal form, right? So landslides, avalanches, cloudburst, pest attack, locust attack. Locust, Bandobast movie, Surya, right? Then frost and cold waves. See, interestingly, cold waves is a notified disaster. Heat wave is not a thing. Here you can be trapped because right from the beginning, okay, North India కొంచెం దూరంగా ఉంటుంది కాబట్టి cold is very prevalent there, right? Cold waves are common. So that is why they are giving that money as a notified disaster. But heat waves, if you see, that is a recent phenomenon because of increased climate change and all. We are having more increase in temperatures. That is why this difference is there. Okay. Very important thing to keep, heat wave is not a notified disaster. Only cold wave is a notified disaster. Clear? Then. So heat waves criteria I have mentioned. Okay. In plain areas, if it exceeds 40 degrees Celsius, and if it is 37 degrees more in coastal areas, and 30 degrees if it crosses in hill areas for certain time, it will be designated as heat wave. Who will make this? IMD. Okay. IMD is under which ministry? Ministry of Earth Sciences. It's not under Science and Technology. Ministry of Earth Sciences, right? Then according to IMD, last year, that means in 2024 itself, 536 heat wave days were recorded in summer. Okay, almost last year. Okay, in almost 14 years, I'm sorry, 14 years, almost 536 heat wave days were recorded. You can understand how much intensity is also there, right? Then I told you this National Disaster Management Authority under 2005 Act, this authority was created. Who will be heading this? Prime Minister will be the chairman of this authority. That means in case of any disaster, he will take the decision. Okay. So how much has to be given, how to respond to the disaster, everything. Okay. So National Disaster Management Act of 2005, this was passed by Parliament. So under this you have National Disaster Management Authority. Here it is Act, here it is Authority. This is the decision making body. You have NDRF, National Disaster Response Fund, National Disaster Response Force also. Force means, army type of personnel will be there. So they'll be trained in how to, again, evacuate the people from disasters and all. So that is the thing. This is organizational structure. Okay. And disaster management as a subject, okay, it is under the purview of Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay. This authority is controlled by Prime Minister, but as a subject, it will fall under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay. Any confusion? Right. Then next. Yes. Consolidated Fund of India. Okay. So see, normally they'll take that from consolidated fund, but in case of extreme emergency, they can take from contingency fund also. Right. Then coal gasification. Okay. This was also a concept mentioned in the budget. When something is mentioned in the budget, it will have a lot of importance in your examination, upcoming examination. Okay. So what is the concept of coal gasification is, our finance minister mentioned in the context of making clean coal. Coal is dirty, black gold we call, right? So because it emits a lot of pollution, but to make clean coal, this process is going to be used. So what is clean coal? Clean coal means, you can see oxygen along with coal, and some water also will be sent, so that in under some conditions of where extreme pressure, temperature, and there will be slag and hydrogen sulfide gas will be there. So we are going to get a syn gas or synthetic gas. Okay. So this gas can be used as an alternative for LPG. LPG cylinders we have, to fill that we can use. Currently, LPG and all we are taking from other countries. But as we have good resources of coal, if we can generate that into cleaner alternative, syngas and all, we can use that as an alternative for LPG. In that way, we can save our money also. At the same time, we can protect our environment from pollution. In that way, our budget has this proposal. So if you see here, In recent, India also has set a target in the union budget to gasify almost 100 million tons of coal. That is the target, okay? So that we can generate this by 2030. So what is this process? Thermochemical process, which converts coal into carbon monoxide and hydrogen. So this will be oxidized by air, oxygen, steam, carbon dioxide, etc. And you will be getting a liquid fuel known as syngas or synthetic gas. So this can be composing of these materials and all. So this can be used as a substitute for LPG, or you can use it for electricity purpose and all, but it is a cleaner way, right, compared to petrol and diesel. So this even has ammonium nitrate, which can be used for explosives and all. So in this way, you can reduce your reliance on imports, because petrol, diesel, everything we're importing from other countries. So it is costing us more. But if you do this, we can save our foreign exchange reserves. Foreign exchange means when you want to convert your rupee into dollar, right? That is what we call forex, right? So in this, if you see, 83% of oil or 90% of methanol, 13 to 15% of ammonium is also imported. This much amount we can save in terms of money if we can do this process into practicality, right? Clear? What is more important is here, this thing you have to keep in mind. Oxygen, coal, as well as water, they will be sent, and then under controlled conditions, you will have the syngas. Syngas is an alternative for LPG. This can be asked in the examination. Okay. Then coal reserves, right? Almost 378 billion tons of coal we have, out of which only almost 200 billion tons are proven. We may have some unproven also, but so far we have traced these elements of coal. That much, only 200 billion. And almost 80% of Indian coal is utilized in thermal power plants to generate electricity and all. Then there is a announcement of National Coal Gasification Mission also, mainly because this is under Ministry of Coal. This is very important. They can ask you the ministry also under Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant. Self-reliant means wanted to make everything in India, which India wants, right? So that concept. So utilize coal through coal gasification by generating at least 100 million tons of coal by 2030. That is the process and the scheme. Then next topic is Liberia. This country is in news. The location is in news because of flooding, excessive flooding. What happened? They wanted to shift their capital from existing capital Monrovia. Okay, because of some reason, when a country takes such a decision of shifting capital or something, that will be important from examination point of view, because every year 5-6 questions are asking from mapping point of view, right? In that context, you need to know. So borders is important. If you see here, the location where we have this, what is this? Northwestern coast of Africa, right? So here you have Sierra Leone. So recently this was in news. Why? For the first time, a country has declared emergency for excessive use of drugs. Okay, so the people in Sierra Leone, they are taking excessively drugs. So it has reached a state where there is no control actually. So for that reason, it has declared emergency. Okay, so some measures are taken. So here you have Guinea. This is Ivory Coast. Okay, so on the other side you have Atlantic Ocean. The location is important. Okay, so these type of questions are asked. Even they'll ask you the country or the region, and then give the reason why they were in news. They're asked you to match. Okay, so these type of trends are increasing in UPSC. So if you see, this is a capital. This is on the coast. When there is excessive capital and flooding and all, they wanted to shift their capital to some other part. That is the reason why this was in news. That's it. Then last topic we have is Golan Heights. See, this particular region, the shadowed region, is called Golan Height. So why this was in news? If you see, so if you have seen here, we have this Israel, right? Israel-Palestine war going on from long, all of that, right? So before that, Israel also have boundary with Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, below which you also have Egypt. So these are the boundaries. On the other side, you have Mediterranean Sea. So this is the location, West Asia we call this region, or Middle East, right? Always a zone of tension, always a favorite area of UPSC. Every year, at least one question from mapping comes from this, because every time, because of some reason or another, it will be in news, right? One conflict or another conflict. So back to back 2 years or 3 years, UPSC have asked same question: which countries are bounding Mediterranean Sea? Okay, if one can focus on this region by clearly observing what is there and all, one question guaranteed. Okay, so again, because of this Israel-Palestine conflict, this has increased its again reason and all. Right, first thing is this Golan Heights shadow region. So what is this Golan Height is? Height is, it is nothing but a plateau actually. But what actually happened is, this is the territory of Syria. Actually, it belongs to Syria. But in 1966, there is a 6-day war, okay, between Israel and Syria and Lebanon and other countries also. At that time, Israel has been victorious and it has taken this part of Golan Heights of Syria from that country and it has annexed it. Currently, it is under the control of Israel. Okay, it belongs to Syria, but it is under the control of Israel. Then what actually happened recently? You know, Lebanon, right? So if you see Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, below Egypt, all these are Muslim dominated countries. And if you see, this is Palestine entirely, but slowly, you know, Jews got settled and they said this is the state of Israel. So all these countries of Arab nation, they don't want to accept this because it actually belongs to Muslim country, Palestine. But they were not now limited to this particular area and this particular area of Gaza Strip and all. So they're not happy with this act of Israel. So they're having that displeasure towards Israel. So they're attacking and they have 1948 Arab-Israeli war we have. A number of wars were fought actually. But if you see recently what happened, this Golan Heights, as I told you, it had a football stadium or field, you can say. There when the match is going on, some audience will be there, right? So this Lebanon's rebel force with the name Hezbollah. These type of questions can also be asked. Rebel force means who are trying to rebel against the government and all. This is from Lebanon. Hamas you have heard, right? In Israel, Palestine. Hamas means they belong to Palestine. Same like that we have Hezbollah from Lebanon, a rebel group, you can say, Shia Muslims, you can say. So they have attacked on Golan Heights football stadium. So where Syrian, not Syrians, but Israeli people are there. So some people have died. So in response, what Israel said, you have targeted me, I'll target you. Okay. So in that way it started. And because of this, this Golan Heights has been in news. And most importantly, already UPSC have asked a question, what is Golan Heights and where it is related to? It is related to matters of West Asia. In these type of conflicts which are in dispute between two countries, you need to pay maximum attention. UPSC will definitely focus on those areas which are going on for long. Okay. For example, if you have seen recently South China Sea dispute between China and Palestine, Philippines, or here you have this West Bank and Gaza Strip in Palestine we have. So such conflicts, if they're continuously in news for some reason, UPSC pays attention towards those. Okay, you need to know which are the bounding countries and to which country it actually belongs and all certain things. Okay, so they don't complicate the things, but they'll ask you Golan Heights they'll give you, and they'll give different regions. Until unless if you know this is Middle East or West Asia, you cannot answer. But it's very simple if you follow this, right? They don't make the things complicated here, right? So this is the discussion for today. If you have any questions, now you can ask. So are you able to understand, especially B10 students? I tried to simplify the thing. Okay. I hope I have done. Yes, I hope so. Right? If I'm little bit fast, okay, please pardon me for that, because I need to complete certain topics. Okay, keeping you people, I have decreased number of topics because you know B6, B7, and other students know. Generally, if I take class, that means if I am given 2 hours, I extend it to 2.5 hours. But you people, for the first time are listening to my class, you should not consider me as a devil. Right? For that reason, I limited myself because I need to cover all the most important topics of the last week. Right? So I think I have done something with respect to your preparation. So if you have any doubts in general or in respect to this particular things which you have discussed, you can ask. Creamy layer. Okay. So creamy layer is nothing but in BCs this concept is there. So if the person's parental income, okay, so it's greater than 8 lakhs, so then he doesn't qualify for BC reservation. He'll come into OC. Okay, so if one of the parent is doing government job of certain category, and if they're earning more than 8 lakhs per annum, okay, so then that will be considered as creamy layer. Okay, so they don't qualify for any reservation. Then
Ma'am, we have seen SC categorization. Is there anything like ST subcategorization?
for SC and ST both they have given yesterday itself. Yes, for both it is going to apply. Till now we have only subcategorization within OPCs. No other caste have. So this whatever the yesterday judgment is that is applied for SCs, STs as well.
also for SCs and STs.
Yes, for both it will apply. As it is given by Supreme Court, now Parliament will bring a law, right? So far I told you already. OBCs, both center and state can make. But it is for SC and ST, if they have to categorize, only Parliament have according to 341 and 341A, right? So Parliament has to bring a law because judgment was given by Supreme Court. But still, Judaism is not actually originated in this part of Palestine, right? So, you know, Jews got settled in different parts and they have returned after 1939. Yes, Holocaust, right? That is the reason. So, actually, that's the territory of Palestine. But they got settled gradually during the British when they controlled Palestine. These Israeli people who followed Judaism and they came and they got settled. So, it's naturally their land, but these people got settled and they're asserting this is our land now. Yes, 1948 onwards are occupying, but actually, if you think also, Palestinians owned that land, right? From the British times also. But British did not take any decision because, you know, Israel, US as a country is always in support of Israel. What is the reason? In US politics or in business also, Jews dominate most of the time. Even Donald Trump's son-in-law, I think, he was also a Jew, right? So that is the influence of Israelis in USA. So they don't take any decision against Israel. All the time they'll be supporting Israel. At that time, when these people got settled also, Palestine was under British control like us also. But British did not take any decision against because of the same reason. British and US are always the close allies also, right? They need support of each other. For that reason, they didn't say anything against Israel. They quietly allowed the settlement of Israel in Palestinian territory. You'll be learning this dispute when you come across in international relations. Okay.
Regarding indexation of LTCG, ma'am, can you just explain that?
Which one?
Indexations for LTCG.
Long-term capital gains. Okay. So long-term capital gains tax is nothing but, see, capital gains means, for example, this applies normally to lands and shares which you buy. Okay. So what generally happens is if you buy a particular land or property of 10 lakhs and if you have sold after 3 years, for example, you bought this with 10 lakhs and now you're selling it for 10 lakhs. Okay. So how much is the gain you're getting? 10 lakhs. So on this, 20% of tax will be imposed. That means how much you have to pay? 2 lakhs you have to pay as the tax to the government. That is what long-term capital gains. Short-term means if it is less than 2-year period. That means if you have bought and sold the particular same thing, if you have sold the same particular property within 2-year period, we call it a short-term capital gain. But if it is more than 3 years, we call it as long-term capital gain, right? So in this, there is a revision of tax rate and all with respect to this in union budget. Then why it is conflicting in the sense that is what, see, why simple, no? If you are again getting this 10 lakh benefit, if you are paying 2 lakhs to the government itself, what are you going to get? That means you're taking more money from the public, right? Opposition will want to gain that sympathy from the public that I'm taking up this cause and all. That's a simple politics. Any government, when they're trying to impose a tax which is collecting maximum money from the public, will that be welcome? No, that's the same thing. Then
Ma'am, in Karnataka, the Karnataka government is saying that it was giving reservations for local people. Is there any issue?
definitely that will also face so many legal hurdles because, see, presently the reservation system is only applied in public institutions. I told you, right? In any private, you don't have anything. But see, the context of reservations, if you see, either it is social, political, we have, right? But economically, first time EWS that was brought, you know, again that was also challenged in Supreme Court and all. But if you are giving some reservations for the locals, okay, so that is not actually there in the constitution. Such system is not there. Only social, economic backwardness. Based on this two only we can give reservations. But if you are again reserving certain things for the locals, and if it is violating the general norm, because you see, anytime reservations have to be within the 50% limit. They should not cross 50%, right? So if it is crossing 50%, definitely then it will be facing this legal hurdles. Okay. So the governments generally what they'll do, they'll try to get the maximum votes and all. For that, they'll announce all these measures and all. But again, withstanding that will be a legal thing. thing. I don't think that will withstand until unless they make some changes. That is applied to private, especially they said. Okay, but in public it is the 50% norm. They said in private institutions, but again there will be a lot of resistance, right? So other people who are settled actually in Silicon Valley and all, like these people, in case in future also it may not lead to migration and all, right? So many persons will not accept this. They'll challenge definitely, and it will again take a different course. Then
And hotel is a private hotel.
hotel,
Is a private
it can be both.
first question.
That's what I'm saying. Anywhere, see, which is a public place. Public place in the sense, hotel is a public place, no? Whether it is owned by the private or anyone, which is open to public is public. See, hotel నేను నడుపుతున్నాను, బట్ నేను ఒక్కదాన్ని నా ఫ్యామిలీ తినట్లేదు కదా. If I allow anyone, that is becoming public, irrespective of the ownership, right? Yes or no? If anyone can come and eat, that means it is public. Whether it is owned by private or whether it is owned by government is not actually taken into account here, right? In any public places like open parks, cinema theaters, malls are not owned by government, right? There are different malls, but you cannot allow, you cannot discriminate. If you see in the recent times, we are seeing with respect to one person, metro also we have seen, and recently in Tamil Nadu also, or in Hyderabad, I guess, one person because of his satire was not allowed into, right? So metro and in Bangalore, in Tamil Nadu, that actually has created a wave also, you know, they wear that lungi and all, right? So one person was not allowed to enter into pub or something 5 years back or something. So they actually has shaked the entire state of Tamil Nadu. You know, culture will be more pride for Tamilians, right? So they said how you can do that and all. So that's the thing. Okay, you cannot restrict anyone on certain grounds, because when you're allowing anyone to enter anywhere, that is a public place, irrespective of the ownership. You cannot show any form of discrimination there, right? Then